I found a little time this week to work on some of these corners, these intersections, and smoothing them over. The whole underside where the bottom meets the sides has been smoothed over. It's got a nice feel to it. I patched a few areas a few days ago, and we're going to smooth those over today and make these nice and neat. These corners and back to the transom, and then moving into forming some of these sections with the windshield. All of our seams are smoothed over nice and neatly, and the next phase is to start taping for the fiberglass and epoxy. And we'll start with taping the edges and then move on to the larger areas. I didn't buy tape, fiberglass tape, so what I'll be doing is cutting down the fiberglass cloth that I have. To get a size or a footprint for the fiberglass for the inside of the boat, I'm going to lay it on the bottom, trim it up, and then we'll have to account for the bulkheads. But this seems like an easier way than trying to lay it down on the inside and get measurements that way. That's the rough size for the interior. I'm going to have it go up the bulkheads just a little bit and then up the inside of the transom a little bit. It has been raining for days, but I've been able to nibble away at the boat in the evenings a little bit. We have the interior fiberglassed and a heavy coat of epoxy laid for the inside. For the deck, I'm not going to be fiberglassing the top deck here. So while I was working on the inside with the fiberglass and the epoxy, I went ahead and covered the top here. The next step is to use the strips of fiberglass and start working on these corners. I have everything rounded over, so we've got really nice seams for all of these joints. I've spent a lot of time making sure these seams are nice and smooth, and these have a beautiful curve to them. Because as far as the fiberglass goes, you don't want sharp angles, and there's a nice curve there. When I was bending the nose up here, I had actually a little split on this side and then this side. But once all the epoxy has been put in, it's sandwiched really well from the inside as well as here. And that's not going anywhere. And once this is coated with the fiberglass around the corner and then sanded down, a couple layers of that with paint, it'll never be noticed. So we're going to start fiberglassing these corners, and I've just got some tape gently holding this on here. Once this starts wetting out, then we can take that off and smooth those over. Instead of buying pre-cut strips, I cut the pieces out of some fiberglass cloth that I had. The biggest downside to that is you have some of these little strands that can kind of get pulled off. This will all be covered with larger sheets and sanded and a couple layers of epoxy, so I'm not too concerned about those, but they will come off a little bit. Another nice thing about nibbling away at this an hour or two at a time rather than marathon sessions is that you can break this up into smaller pieces and wait for the epoxy to set up. So let's mix up some more of this stuff and get going on these corners. It's been 24 hours since we did these corners, and everything is set up pretty well. I like the way that fiberglass looks going around the sides. And it's interesting also, we're under a 6 or 7 day rainstorm here. Torrential heavy rains, crazy high humidity levels, and the epoxy has been setting up just fine, no issues. So the next thing to do is to cut out the piece for the bottom and wet that out, and then go around to the transom and work on that piece also. Got the fiberglass laid on the bottom. We'll cut this out so that it matches the shape real well. You can see some of the water in the shed here. This is an old shed that has seen much better days. And with all the rain we've had, we've got a little bit of flooding issues, but I'm very thankful for this space. And everything is staying dry over here. So let's get this cut out, wet it out, and keep going. Got the rough shape cut out. Now I'm going to mix up some epoxy, and I think I'm going to need to order some more fiberglass cloth. This is not the cloth from the bill of materials. This is some leftover from a previous project. Thought I had just enough, but I think we'll have to order a little bit more. And that's after we've got the bottom all laid out and wetted out. So we'll give this 24 hours. Pick back up on this tomorrow and start working on the sides. This is day 7 of torrential heavy rain while working on this boat project. Crazy amounts of water. And we've still got some leakage here in the shed, but over towards the middle, everything is pretty dry. So the bottom has been fiberglassed, and I just finished up doing the transom. So we'll give this a good 24 hours to set. And I'm going to need to order some more epoxy and some more fiberglass for the sides. But we're certainly making progress. Coming along nicely. The whole inside has been done. I want to put another coat of epoxy on the inside. And then hopefully this week we'll get to the sides and move on from there. Really coming along, looking cool. Thanks very much for taking a look.